At Mount Angel Seminary, where I'm studying right now, we students sometimes find ourselves saying, especially this time of the year, I just can't wait for the semester to be over. I can't wait for the exams to be done with, for classes and papers to be done with. I can't wait for the end of the year and be able to go home for break. And here we are, seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of November already, and the end is near. But rather than a relief, it seems that the pressure is higher than before. Why? Because the papers and projects I had all semester to work on is due in just a few days. That exam that I had all semester to study and prepare for, just around the corner. The end is near, and I've put so many things off. Today, brothers and sisters, we come near the end of another year. We're also near the end of our liturgical year, and in a couple weeks, it'll be Advent. And before you know it, it'll be Christmas. And then 2020. Today's readings remind us of the reality of the end in a bigger and more ultimate scale. You don't have to be a historian to see that everything that ever was has an ending. All the great civilizations of the past, the great wonders and monuments they've built, these great figures, great people from the past, all the things that we've ever built or own will eventually break. All our clothes will eventually wear out. Even our solar system has an expiration date. And of course, all the people we know, even the people we love, even ourselves, will eventually die. This is an earthly end we all have to face. And we've heard in the gospel, while some people were busy speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones, admiring it, Jesus said, all that you see here, the days will come when there will be not a stone left upon another stone that will not be thrown down. And of course, as we heard, the natural question to ask is when? When will this big end, this big finale happen? And rather than, give a date or tell us the schedule, Jesus answers by foretelling about wars and insurrections. Nations will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues, persecutions, hatred, all these terrible things. And again, you don't have to be a historian to see that these ugly things have been a part of our human story and continue to be. And when times get really grim, as Jesus predicted, there are folks who do come out and say in one way or another that they are the Messiah. They often build up fear by crying out doom and gloom. Big sign, the end is near. Be afraid. But what does Jesus say? does Jesus say that often get buried under these apocalyptic images, the devastating descriptions of the end of the world, that we can only imagine, that gets buried beneath all the sensation? He says, do not follow them. Do not be terrified. The truth is, the end is always near. It's a matter of how can we be prepared. Jesus tells us that we won't do any good by living in anxiety or fear or distress about it. Maybe the wrong question to ask is, when will the end come? And maybe the right question that Jesus wants us, his disciples, to be asking every day is, how am I going to live right now with this moment that I have? Because it doesn't matter so much when the end will come, but the only day that we have, the only time that we can completely be certain of is now. We live now to the fullest. As Christians, we have the choice to live the life of holiness, the life of doing our very best to follow and to love like Jesus, not later, now. We've all heard that saying, live life, live each day as though it may be your last. I know it might sound a bit, cliche, but in light of today's gospel and readings, I think there is great wisdom there. And it doesn't mean, go do something big and wild and reckless. You might hear some of us young people, a few years ago, hopefully not still now, YOLO. You only live once, so go wild. No. That's not what it means. That's not what Jesus means. And if we listen to the reading from Paul, it doesn't mean, live each day as it may be your last, so stop working. Drop all your responsibilities. No. For the Christian, for you and I who have known Jesus, it means to live each day with full meaning and full intention. Even the parts that seem so little and meaningless, maybe especially those parts that seem so little and mundane, to live those in a way or with an attitude or perspective that draws life in it and out of it. So today, with this Eucharist now, what are we going to do differently to live in the present more fully? What are we going to do differently today to be more attentive, maybe, to be more loving, more present to those who need our unique attention, our unique love, our unique presence, to those whose unique and unrepeatable lives, to those whose unique existence, whose unique world we happen to be a very unique part of. What are we going to do more differently to be present to God, in whose creation each and every single one of us are a very unique part of? And maybe the question for some is, what are you going to stop doing in order to live the present more fully? What are we still, as students in the school of life, putting off before the final, before it's too late? Again, in the context of eternity, the end is always near. But the Lord is always present and waiting to be encountered at every precious passing now. And the true and ultimate end a Christian must live and strive for is none other than eternal life with God. That is true life in its absolute fullness, made possible by the death and rising of Jesus Christ. Do we live now as we truly believe that? And if not, can we? Can we live as we truly believe that? Can we live entrusting the future to Him? And to listen to His voice once again, which tells us, despite any great challenges or discouragement, any big, scary fear that there are and will be, any distress, do not be frightened. Do not be afraid to commit to truly living now in all goodness and fullness. It's the same Lord who says, "For I am with you always, until the end of time. Do not be afraid."